I have really struggled with like really bad depression and anxiety my whole life. With COVID starting, I lost a lot of like family support for school, and I was really just not in a great place mentally and was really struggling with my depression. My sister-in-law had invited me to No Fear November in 2020 and really pushed me to come because she thought that the message would make a big difference relating specifically to my depression and anxiety. I ended up going. So the day that I chose to come to the No Fear November message, it was relating to anxiety and what the Bible says about anxiety. The night before that Saturday night, I had really bad panic attacks. Calvin had been up a lot, and whenever my anxiety is bad and Calvin doesn't sleep, like it ends up being like the next day, my depression is really awful. I deal with a lot of like negative self-talk and like dealing with a lot of unworthiness and like everything in my life. And so the morning of, I didn't want to go, tried to get out of it. Liv came and picked me up and was like, "You don't have a choice, let's go." And I was like, okay. And then I came in and everybody was so welcoming and warm, and I was really nervous about leaving Calvin because I knew he was going to be really attached to me, and the people in the nursery were like, "It's okay, like don't worry, like he's going to be okay, like he's going to cry, but we got this, like it's fine." And then when I got into the actual sanctuary for the service, it was just like the overall like calming presence that I felt when I was listening to the message. It was the first time in like months where I didn't feel like I was gonna have a panic attack. That compiled with the message of, you're not your depression, you are not your anxiety, like God didn't make us to be that way. It really just like clicked for me that like God was trying to tell me, you are not these things and you're going to get through it. I ended up getting connected with Rachel. She was kind of talking to me about like her journey with depression and her spirituality, and it kind of really resonated with me personally that I'm not the only person struggling with this, and I can have a strong relationship with the Lord. In January of this year, on a whim, I decided to join Growth Phases. Like 2 weeks after Growth Phases had started, I got diagnosed with PTSD, and at that time, I was barely sleeping. I was up all hours of the night. My PTSD is not so much like the memories, it's like the intense emotions and fear and feeling like I am literally fighting for my life. So I kept coming to the Growth Phases class, and the story of Peter and Jesus, where he's walking on the water, was like really resonating with me. When Peter called to Jesus and was like, "If you're really Jesus, let me walk out to you." And then he walked across the water, and then he fell in, and Jesus pulled him out and said to him, "Are you of so little faith? Why do you doubt me?" It really clicked with me that it is okay to have doubts, but I need to remember that Jesus is Jesus and he can get me through any situation. And whenever I'm struggling with my fear and my anxiety, give it over to him and he will get me through it. And I would say it was like the last 2 classes of Growth Phases, it was like all of a sudden a complete 180, and I went from really struggling with my PTSD and not sleeping to hardly having that issue at all, and like finally feeling relaxed at night and not being afraid. I no longer struggle with my fear of being alone because I was invited.